So welcome everyone. So this is going to be our What's New in Cognos 12 in Cognos Analytics. So really excited to share this content. I've spent a lot of time playing with it. I'm going to go through a little bit of a presentation, just a few slides. I don't want to kill you with a bunch of PowerPoints. And then jump into a demo, and then we'll have time for questions. So just a few housekeeping items. You should all be able to see chat. If you're able to see the chat button, can you just type a 1 in there for us just to make sure that you have access? That's where you'll be able to pose some questions. Heather will be monitoring the questions for us, and then we'll have a little Q&A towards the end. Heather, if you see anything that's really pertinent to what I'm talking about, please jump in and interrupt and ask. So you should see that. Hopefully everybody's seeing that and can type a 1 in the chat for us. Give you a second to do that.
We are seeing ones.
All right, perfect. Okay, didn't want to go forward unless we had that capability active. So next housekeeping item is, if you could in chat, now that you have it, I'd just like to kind of poll the room and just see, if you're even using Cognos Analytics. Put a yes or a 1. And then also, if you could just type in what version you're on today. It could be 11.0, 11.1, 11.2, whatever version that you're on. That would just help me as we go through this. I'm going to guess most of you are not on 12 at this point in time, but if you're on 12, please put that in there. All right, so now we're going to jump in and get started. Cognos 12, in summary, has 3 main areas. The increased productivity with self-service, and I'm going to show a lot of this today. The ability to just basically be brand new to using Cognos and jump in and get data and get items created and do analysis and get some real natural language insights that will prompt you and take you even further into what you might be looking for. Self-service is greatly improved in Cognos 12. I'm really excited about that. The first time I logged in and started playing, I was so excited just at how easy it will be for anybody to get started. Let's be honest, it hasn't been the easiest thing to do over the course of, different versions over the years. I think IBM has really hit it out of the park with this piece of it. It is just so simple and so easy to get started, and we'll spend a lot of time on the demo in that. The performance of dashboards are, in a word, incredible. There's a new caching technology that basically will automatically cache as you save a dashboard, which makes it almost instantaneous when you open it. It's milliseconds, to be honest. When you filter on something, you can maybe on previous versions, you'll remember if you filter or you do something, it might take a few seconds, up to 10, 12 seconds to kind of query what you're trying to do and bring that back. With this auto caching technology, it is instantaneous. And in a little bit, I'll actually ask Ted, who is with us, who's our technical guru, to talk a little bit more from a technical perspective of what some of this stuff means in terms of horsepower and server setup and how you can kind of tune it even better to make some of this work even better. So we'll hit on that in a little bit. And then there's a brand new guided UI that takes you from, kind of with that increased productivity, takes you from beginning to end and allows that brand new user or somebody who's been using it for years to create something very quickly. So before we jump into any more, I do want to have to throw out this caution, right? We have a caution here. When you move from 11.2.4 to 11 or to 12, pardon me, that Query Studio, Analysis Studio, and Cognos Workspace are no longer supported or available in Cognos Analytics. So what does that mean? Those of you who use a lot of Analysis Studio reports or Query Studio reports, there is a path to upgrade them. IBM has provided a little bit of it's a little code that allows you to upgrade those to actual just reports inside of Cognos. But I think you're going to find as I go through the demo that some of the things I'll do will take the place a little bit of some of those reports. So Query Studio report, you're not building anything crazy, right? You're just trying to get data. Analysis Studio's more the same way, but you're just slicing and dicing data to get to some information or some analysis. And I think with this new the upgraded assistant and this new self-service model, you can type things in very simple, like show me revenue for 2019, and instead of slicing and dicing a cube, you can get to that answer very quickly. So is it perfect in a one-for-one replacement? No, but I think they're building on something that'll get you there. So just please note that as you move to 12, that you will no longer have support for these studios. All right, so let's get to the good stuff. So in the assistant updates, so we have a ton of them. One of the biggest ones is when you open up Cognos 12, it is at the forefront of what you're doing. I put an image of the welcome page, and it starts with the assistant. And I'm going to take you through a lot of different steps, a lot of different scenarios when we get in here. But really, what IBM is doing here is putting this right at the forefront. They want you to use the assistant. They want you to get started with it. And honestly, you should. It will make your life much easier in terms of creating visualizations, finding data, doing all of that sort of thing. So we'll talk about that shortly. This is another kind of visualization of what the assistant looks like. It's really upgraded. The has a lot of design improvements. It just makes it easier to use. You can now open the assistant from anywhere inside of Cognos, which is huge. Before, you had to actually be inside of a dashboard or whatever it might be to start using the assistant. And then the ability to select your data source without even really knowing what you're looking for. You could, type in something simply, title and revenue, and it would bring about those data sources that contain that information and allow you to choose which one you may want to use. And it will take you through some other things where it will explain the data source and all this good stuff. So again, if I'm a brand new user, I can start without having to have a whole lot of training and a whole lot of hand holding from somebody who may understand the data better than I do. The improvements to the natural language and the narrative insights inside of the assistant is just amazing. You're able to type in so much more in terms of comparatives and filters. So you see, I have some examples there, and I'll show you some of these as I get into the demo. But just certain things like how do marketing costs for the last 2 years compare, and it will go out and it'll find that data source and it will bring back that comparison. And then as you see on the right, they've built in the narrative insights, which really prompts you to look deeper, right? So in this example, maybe a gross profit is most unusual when product line is personal accessories and outdoor protection. Well, why? So now it's starting to prompt that user or the analyst to dig deeper onto the data and not just here's the chart, take a look at it, you figure things out on your own, right? I can, as an analyst, I can dig deeper and provide those answers that are probably to the questions that are probably going to be asked, right? And then you can also do certain things like, show insights for a specific column name or analyze a specific column name, which again just gives that user and then the folks who need that information the ability to get it much quicker, to dig in easier, and provide just great, easy updates for everybody. Excuse me. They've also built in the ability to share from the assistant. So if you use Teams or Slack or even via email, you can just share directly from the assistant. You don't have to be inside of a dashboard or anything like that. And then you also have the ability to add it to a new dashboard. And I'll show you this in the demo. When you click on more, you're able to say, hey, show me more that's related to this. So you'll start gathering more information and more information. Again, it's that self-service, that ease of use, that ability to find what you want when you need it as quickly as possible. which is just really, really powerful. I talked a little bit about the speed of dashboarding. So I've just shown you there's an auto caching feature, and there's a link here that gives more information to it. But it preloads everything. Once you save it, it caches everything, and it kind of sticks it aside. So when you need to grab it or you need to open it, it's instantaneous. I'm really amazed at this feature, to be honest with you. From 11.1.7 to 11.2, the speed that dashboards rendered and reports rendered was quicker for sure. I think I did a test a couple years ago, and it was about 50% quicker. Now I'm not even sure I can calculate how much quicker it is, because it's almost instantaneous once the dashboard has been cached. When you first start building it, it will be slower. But once it's cached, and obviously once you start opening it and reopening it, it is instantaneous, and I will show you that as well. Heather, I'll stop here. Any questions that pertain to any of this?
There does not look like there's questions right now, but Brian does say that he has a document from IBM that shows how Query Studio and Analysis Studio are converting over.
Yes.
And so if anyone's interested, if Brian, if you can just email that to us, and then we can send that out to everyone. We always like documents that share insights. So thank you for that.
I think I may have sent that to Brian.
Oh.
I think.
You know what they say, if you keep hitting the same thing, you're on the right path.
Yeah. and I do have that document, and it's not necessarily, and I think Brian would concur, it's not one for one, but there is, Rachel, who put it together at IBM, did a pretty good job of comparing using reporting inside of Cognos versus Query or Analysis Studio, and it's not one for one, but it's pretty close.
Great. I love the fact that they're speeding this up. Oh, and we also have Brian saying it only applies to 11.2.4.
Yes.
Just for everyone's reference.
Yes, you have to be on 11.2.4. Absolutely.
Thanks, Brian.
Also inside of dashboards, there's a new nested visualization, which at first I was like, what do I need that for? But then I started using it and went, wow, I really like this. So I'll show that as well. And then inside of the forecasting piece, you can actually see the statistical details on the automated forecast inside of the product, which we will show as well. And then I'm just going to hit on a couple other smaller things from 12. As I said, 12 was really based on that self-service, that speed of dashboard and visualizations, and that guided UI for any user, new or old, to get started and do things quicker. But inside of reporting, you can now define default parameter values in a report. So it can be static or report expression, whatever it might be. And then you can also set the range values on a date control, which I know a lot of people have asked for. And I just put a little example of that there. And then inside of a report, they actually built this little report objects quick link. So it kind of gives you maybe for lack of a better word, a table of contents of what's inside of your report. So if you need to find something quickly, or if I'm new to reporting and I need to look at the date prompt or the prompt button, I can utilize this report objects area, and anything in blue is a hyperlink that has some data with it or an object to it, and I can click that and it will take me directly to it. So again, speed, ease of use, especially in reporting, which, as we all know, is extremely powerful, but can be a little overwhelming. So before I jump into the demo, Ted, I wanted to invite you in. We talked yesterday, and we were talking more from a technical standpoint about really the power of 12 and what's in there now for the power user, the administrator, the folks who have to take care of the servers and things of that nature. So if you're there, Ted, when you want to jump in and just maybe explain a little bit about what we talked about yesterday, I think it's good knowledge, and I think people should hear it.
Gosh, we had a good conversation yesterday, Mike, and I wish we would have just recorded it, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Because it would have been like, oh man. So there are some changes, right? There are some significant changes when we talk about Cognos 11 to the Cognos 12 platform. Some of those are going to be using natural language and how they're enhancing a lot of the product and how they've taken away some of our legacy features, right? And you can see that they're on that trajectory of adding and really making it a robust environment when we talk about self-service, but there's some realities there too, right? So a lot of everybody on the call or anybody who's listening is that we're still leveraging Cognos in some of those legacy type capacities where we're using, reporting as, subscription, right? We're sending out reports we do have some ad hoc, but it's ad hoc of specific reports and things like that. Well, having our self-service kind of opened up and really bringing Cognos to the forefront in allowing our users to change things and update things, we're putting more stress on the back end, right? Meaning that we're going to be leveraging more memory. We're going to be leveraging more CPU, and really, I'll talk more about memory, right? So each component is broken down into what kind of memory segments they're going to take on the server side. So I'm not going to get too technical about things, but essentially what I'm alluding to is that we're going to need more memory, right? So as we're progressing within these Cognos environments, if you're coming from a true legacy Cognos environment, you are going to have to step it depending on if you leverage Transformer and Analysis Studio. When you're moving away from that technology, you're going to have to step up to 11.2 in order to get to Cognos 12. Once we're there, then we can kind of, start to tune each component based on what your needs are going to be in the future. So that's really kind of what we talked about yesterday, Mike, is that a lot of these components can be tuned as far as how much memory or, what type of capacity we can start to grab. So as you transition into your new Cognos environment, let's have a conversation based on architecture. Let's have a conversation based on what the future use of the Cognos 12 environment looks like. We have to kind of expand our horizons a little bit. Self-service is becoming more prevalent. So a lot of these legacy-based reports could potentially go away.
Absolutely. Yeah, no,
Yep.
that's a really good
So
point at the
guys,
end
there
there.
is a question. There's a question in chat, guys. It says, do you guys have any suggestions or setup recommendations for configuring or using customizations for making report authoring easier for the basic end user?
That's a great
that's
question.
a great question.
I
And
actually think that's another webinar.
It's one that has been troubling for years, right? And I'm guessing that's Brian.
Yes.
But it's true because, right, if you're new to Cognos or even you've been using it for a couple of years, reporting is not easy because it's super powerful. Like, it is probably the best reporting tool on the planet. It can do so much. You can build so many different things, and it can seem very, very overwhelming, right?
I think that goes along the lines of, Mike, for those of you that didn't know, we just did a boot camp, an analytics success boot
Bingo.
camp.
I think that's exactly it, Heather.
And in Dallas. And one of the things we really shared in that event is we talked a ton about end user adoption. If you guys missed it, keep an eye out. We're looking at it, scheduling some more dates. But the idea behind doing workshops and really getting people to understand the why it benefits them personally, and getting them understanding why the old methods and status quo aren't going to serve them in the future. Because that's what we really have to do with end user adoption, is make it so the new stuff is more valuable to them in their job and in what they do than the status quo of using the old stuff. if that
Yeah,
makes any
yeah,
sense.
it does. And, part of me thinking about it while you were talking was I've used reporting for so long, right? So for me, I go in and I know what to do and I know where to go and I know how to grab things. It would be interesting, Brian, to have a conversation with you and maybe one of those end users who really doesn't use it, or they're just more basic, to understand where they get stuck, right? Because for me, I think, well, it's just right there, right? I've used it for so long. Brian, you probably think the same thing, right? I've used it for so long. Well, you just grab this and you make a query and then you do this and you do that. And so for me, it's hard to say, okay, how can I simplify this for the end user? Because you can do, right, you can do some customizations in there, Ted, where you only show certain things, or you make it, maybe try and make it a more guided experience.
You can absolutely make it a guided experience. You can absolutely take things away and then add them back over time as the end user is able to adapt to the new solution. There's two trains of thought, right? I mean, do you restrict everything and, slowly give it out to the end users? Or do you open up that fire hose and let them go wild? There's two trains of thought,
In the dev environment. Yeah.
right. In the dev environment's great, and this is where we're, I think there's some struggle, right? There's some obvious struggle from the adoption side of the house, because a lot of the end users are somewhat used to getting a report delivered in their inbox, and that's that, right? I have my content.
It's
I don't need to
and the
go
data's
anywhere.
old, right? Yeah.
Right. And so things are kind of moving towards the opposite side, where your inbox isn't going to get full, but you're kind of on the hot seat to go and get that content and make a decision. Well, that's kind of what you're saying too, Brian, is how do we make our end users get to that point of that transition away from the inbox and onto the screen, and actually asking the right questions? And I think Cognos 12 answers some of that, versus, say, the Cognos 11 releases. With the natural language, it really is opening up that aspect of, how do I get from that end user to actual report on screen? Natural language is really going to bring that to them.
Yeah, but guys, don't forget the people side of it. So everybody on here, I can see all of who you are, right, for the most part. And you guys are like the wizards. You're like, well, you've been using it for years. You know your stuff, right? But remember when you learned something the first time, like maybe it was riding a bike, and it was terrifying, right? And you fell off and you did it again and again, and then you finally got going, but it was scary. That's how a lot of your end users feel. And we see technology and we get excited, but that's not how a lot of people are. A lot of people are terrified that they're going to look stupid, that they're going to break it, and so that's where we really, really encourage you guys. And you may have done a workshop in the past. You're like, I tried that, Heather. It didn't really work. Well, just like riding a bike, did you ride the bike perfectly the first time? I didn't. And in fact, I've almost died on a bike twice. Bicycles are still not my friend. My husband bought me a trike. But being able to do workshops to, as we do the requirements discovery of what the end users really need, and then restrict the functionality to the things they really need, and then maybe add them back in, as Ted was saying, later. Now that's really going to make it so it's a safe environment for them, and they're going to be much more likely to use the technology then.
Yeah, and I think with what they've done in 12 here, and I'll jump into that, so we can get through the content, but they've made it so there's a GUI interface. It's a UI that makes it easy, and maybe that will come with reporting someday, right? Maybe that's kind of the next steps for self-service and reporting now.
Well, it's funny you say that, because Brian just said it would be better if they added a wizard to report authoring. That would dramatically help the typical user.
So I think you'll see
close.
maybe, especially if you haven't seen some of this, I think you'll see where they're headed, and maybe that will take care of that, hopefully in the future. If not, Brian, I know Rachel pretty well, and we could sit and have a chat with her. So she's always open to understand what people are looking for. So, and I'm sure you've talked to Rachel before as well. All right, so let's get started on the demo. So I pulled up Cognos 12. You'll see, as I showed in the presentation, it starts with the assistant. There is some get started and watch video type stuff here. This I want to make sure everybody knows of. The Learn panel is excellent. So if you have questions, you need to figure out even what's new. This Learn panel is really, really good, and it will show you things. It'll teach you things. There's a lot of answers. There's actually videos in here, web pages. There's all kinds of things in here. So that first and foremost, know that that's there. But as I said, it starts with the assistant. You have a couple areas to upload or create content, so you don't have to go into, the open menu and go to new and do all this good stuff, right? You'll see that the assistant is going to be available in every screen by just clicking this button here, and it will take you over to the assistant. But I'm going to start from the very, very beginning. And maybe I'm a brand new user. I've been given a spreadsheet. I'm going to use some movie data. We can all understand movies. Just some data I found and pulled. I don't know if it's right or not, but you'll get the point. And I was told, hey, here's some data. I want you to create something for me. I want you to tell me, what some of the top movies were, who made the most money, who lost the most money, who the best actors or actresses is, whatever it might be. And you're like, oh, well, geez, I haven't even been into Cognos. But I have this file and I can open this page and I say, okay, upload and start creating content. All right, so let's see what happens, right? I'm brand new. So I'm going to go out and grab this data. I'm like, oh, good, it's uploading. This is a good start. And once this uploads, it only takes a second or two here to finish up. You'll see that this new guided UI is going to come up and it's going to say, okay, now what do you want to do? Let me move that out of the way. So I'm going to hit next. We'll see that we've loaded our data. I'm going to hit next. And it says, all right, what do you want to do? Do you want to create a data module? Do you want to create a dashboard? Do you want to see some insights? Whatever it might be. And maybe I want to start with some insights. Like, okay, I'm brand new. I want to start. I haven't figured out what I need, but I want to let the system help me do some things. So instantly it takes you into your assistant. And it just gets started. It loads that data and it says, okay, we've got some revenue, we've got some budget, we've got some rating information, length, popularity, so on and so forth. Maybe I click revenue and now it's going to say, okay, let's see what we got inside of revenue. And so it kind of tells me what it is. And it says, okay, here's some interesting fields related to revenue. And maybe I want to, compare that or show it with popularity. So very, very quickly, I've just created something that shows me the revenue and the popularity. And from there, I can do different things, right? I can show related visualizations. So let's let the system do some more work for me. Oh, well, we're getting better, right? Now we've got a much better looking chart. I've got some dates. I've got a column for popularity and a budget. So we can see that we've got some information here. And then the system's going to say, okay, let's give you some more information. So the release date of this has the highest total budget, but is ranked third in total popularity. So it starts to prompt you and ask you to look at things and do different things, which is just awesome, right? In a minute, I went from not knowing how to do anything to clicking a few buttons, and I now have a chart I could use if I wanted to, which is really, really impressive to me. That you can just start and go. If I'm like, yep, I want to start creating a new dashboard, I hit add to new dashboard, and now that's brought in that information, and I can keep working. Right, so that's that guided UI that just gets you moving, gets you started. You could have no information, but it really just gets you started. So now let's say we've been in here, we know we have some data. I created a data module off of this just so I could have some drill up and drill down. So I built in some navigation paths. You'll filtering with relative time. And I just cleaned up the data a little bit. Again, that's a more adept and a more of a power user to do this, but that first person knew nothing, just grabbed a spreadsheet and could start working. But I went in and I did a little bit more work, so I could build a more realistic type dashboard. So maybe I have this data and all of a sudden I want to start and say, okay, show top 10 titles by revenue. And so you'll see here, I have no source selected, but the system is smart enough to take that information and go, okay, it's used that one I just was in, but it also says, hey, I found these matching things in other data places. So I know I want to use my movie data module. So we'll click that. And so now it's going to change that source to a movie data module. And very quickly, I have a top 10 revenue by title visualization showing me that. And I think this is through 2016, so I'm sure there's movies that have grossed more than this, but Avatar was the largest. Avatar was the highest total revenue, but only had the third total highest budget, which means it probably did really well, right? Here I can change from different chart types. Again, I can add to new dashboard. I can use the share button, so I don't have Teams or email or anything set up, but I could share this directly from here. I can, again, go in and say, hey, show me some more related visualizations. So now it's, hey, rating and revenue by release date. So now we're getting even further into the information, right? So again, it's going to give me those insights. It's going to start giving me this information. And it really just keeps driving your thought process. If I used to be an analyst forever, so I understand, hey, I wish I had this back then because my life would have been a lot easier.
Hey, Mike, there's a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
By default, is the data source section blank in the assistant? If so, will it go through all available data sources and search for the topic?
It should, yes. It is blank to start. My guess is, and I don't know this for sure, Ted, maybe you know, that you may be able to set a default. It also is going to be security dependent. So if I don't have access to certain data, I shouldn't be able to search on that.
Correct. Correct. So by default, it's blank, right? So you do need to set one, and it would be by security as well. So you could have an entry point type data source that's coming in for, a specific set of users. That's correct.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you, Ted. So I mentioned earlier, you can, type show insights, and then this has a filter. It's like Google when you Google something, right? It's starting to pre-populate things for you. So I could say show insights by net profit. And now the system's going to, again, keep giving me more, right? And that's the key to this self-service, to this assistant. I haven't built anything yet, but I have a lot of data. So I haven't wasted any time building something. Oh, no, this isn't good. I don't like this. I don't like that, right? So I'm doing my exploration, basically. I'm trying to figure out what I need. Again, I'm a brand new user. I don't know what people need, but the system's starting to try and tell me, hey, this is what I think I need. And as Heather mentioned earlier, about, working with people and trying to get there, like, you also need to do that, right? You need to sit and talk. And I would sit, honestly, and start showing them some of these things to get their mind going and say, hey, here's some of the stuff I've come up with. I haven't spent any time building anything, but I have it ready and available if this is what we want to do. So I think that's really, really powerful. And so here's the insights that it's shown. So I can just, again, keep creating, even to the point where, you know what? I don't really know what I want to do. And all I have to do is type in create dashboard. And now the system's going to go out and create a whole dashboard for me. which I think, again, is powerful. A nice starting point, right? It's saying, here's what I've decided to create you. And you did see how quickly that loaded, like really, really quick. Here's a revenue, a budget, and a rating tab, right? So it's starting to give me some information. And maybe I like this and I simply go and pin it, because what that does is it stores it away for me where I can continue to use it over and over and over again without having to create it. So very, very powerful, right? Just this ability to just go deeper, get you more information, and get you started. Again, I'm brand new, but I could go, hey, I created a dashboard. Look at this. May not be perfect. Let's sit and talk about it, and let's figure out what you like and what you don't like, and then go from there. So very, very, very quick.
So curious, guys, if you could do us a favor, I just want to get a pulse.
Please. I was just going to do that. Yep.
We do this. What's your number? You guys know this, right? Do us a favor, put in chat 0 to 10. 10, this is extraordinary. 0 meaning I hate this, which I don't think you're going to give it a 0, but give us a little pulse of what you feel about what you've seen so far. Okay, we're seeing some 8s, some 6s. Great. And then if you also have any ideas where you're like, ooh, I'd like it to do this too, just let us know that. By the way, how we get your, like, if you guys see things, and Mike, I've already taken some notes today about maybe starting a chat with Rachel where we get this group together and have a little chat session and say, here's some things we'd like to see. So if you guys want to be part of that, make sure you respond to kind of invites and stuff like that, and we'll get you on that list, because I think that'd be a great session. I think she'd probably be willing to do it as well.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. I think she would, because she's always asking for, and she says to me all the time, if you have people who are looking for something, who have concerns, questions, right? Let's be honest, guys. IBM is up against it from Tableau. They're up against it from Power BI. They're up against it from Click, right? I mean, that's who they're competing with against on this stuff. And if they can make the product better or quicker or faster or easier, they're all in to have that discussion. They may or may not be able to do it, but they're all in to at least discuss it, right? There's only so much time and dollars to do things. So, but I think it would be a great idea to put together even a little focus group type thing that says, hey, here's what we're hearing. Because she wants the good and the bad. She just doesn't want the good. I know that for a fact. So I'm going to go ahead and open up. So I created just a little dashboard. So I've done all my work. I spent a lot of time playing in the AI. And again, I hadn't really used it much, to be honest. I mean, I've used Cognos forever, but I started playing with this a few days ago. And it's just really easy and powerful, I believe. So the first thing I want you to notice is I'm going to click the button, and I want you to notice how fast this loads. Are we ready? I mean, it was that quick. And there's 5 tabs on here and I don't know how many lines the spreadsheet was, but it was quite a few lines that were brought in. And the spreadsheet was turned into a data module. And the reason that happens is I showed you, let's go into the edit button. Earlier was this caching. And if you go into the properties of the dashboard, so not on a widget itself, but on the dashboard, you'll see that you have this configure local cache section. And so I have 2 data caches. I have the auto generate on save, and that's on by default. So the first time I created this and I hit save, it started creating these data caches, which is why this loads so darn quickly. So just know that that's where that's located. So on the first tab here, I created one of these new tabbed visualizations. So I could have put all 3 of these on this main page, but what I did is I created one grouping that kind of, it's the same type of visualization, but I can flip back and forth. So I can start with revenue and see which movies had the highest revenue. I can then turn it by lead. So I can say, okay, Tom Cruise looks like he's killing it, right? Always is. I think he just came out with a new one this week too, Mission Impossible 17 or whatever it is. But again, real quick. And so I'm flipping through each of these, right? So here's the net profit. So while Tom Cruise had the most revenue, Tom Hanks has been more profitable. So just quickly in the same visualization, flip back and forth. In here, when I told you I built in, I think it's in this one, in one of these. It's in another one. So we had that. I built in just a little pie chart, right? Everything's interactive. So I clicked on 2014, and now all those movies, the top 10 in 2014 just came up. That looks like it was the biggest year if I go to 2015. So again, it's just real quick, easy, very easy to do, right? So then I've got another visual, another tab here that's really just showing budget, revenue to budget, right? So I can see what's going on here. I built in a filter here, so I've got it on Top Gun, great movie. Not the new one, the old one, but you can see that it had a $15 million budget, and its revenue over the years is, almost $360 million. So it did quite well. But I wanted to just show you how quick it is to filter something. So let's just choose, let's pick a movie. How about Jurassic Park? So we'll just do that. And instant. I mean, it filters instantly now. Before, that would have taken 4, 5, 6 seconds to query through, figure it out. But because it's cached, it filters that quickly. And it would work the same if I wanted to pick a bunch of them, right? If I can I'll just pick all these. Again, just as quick. On the financial tab, again, just showing the possibilities, right? I have some profit, revenue, budget, rating numbers. And from here, if I click on a specific actor, so we'll just click on Johnny Depp, I can see him, in total, what he's done over the course, what his ratings have been like, so on and so forth. Same thing here, right? So, the Shawshank Redemption, here I can drill in or drill down, right? So I'll drill down on Tim Robbins. That's going to take me to his next movie. So I did that building in some navigation paths in the data module. So we've got that drill up, drill down capabilities. I think I did it on another one of these somewhere. And then we have, let me reset this one because I think here we go. Let me just choose an actor. So we'll just put in Tom Hanks or Tom Cruise, either one. Right. So here's Tom Cruise's revenue, budget, net profit by year. And from here, I can turn on that forecasting I talked about. So we'll turn that on. And this is now going to forecast out what the next couple years look like. And also give me some narrative insights, so on and so forth, to what 2016, 2017 might look like for Tom Cruise. If I hover over it, it's going to give me kind of a high, medium, and low. So I clicked on it, you'll see that it's got the high going to there, and then the median, and then the low, kind of probabilities. And then I showed you in the presentation that you now have this statistical details area that kind of shows you, how accurate it believes that the forecast, the predictive model is going to be, so on and so forth. So just really powerful, really easy to use. You have those narrative insights. That's something that was introduced somewhere in 11.2, where if I click on the little starburst and turn on the insights, you'll see that the chart's going to update a little bit with the average value and if there's any meaningful differences. So it's added in the average. And then it's also giving you some more, natural language insights directly inside of the dashboard.
So, Mike, there is a quick question.
Sure.
In your opinion, have they improved the forecast accuracy? I found that this is rather generic.
It is rather generic, but from what I've read, I believe they have it's the model or the processing, the predictive has been improved, I believe, but also what they've done is allow you the ability to update very quickly certain things inside of this. So how many forecast periods, ignoring using seasonality, right? So you can use in or dragging in other optional factors. So if I wanted to drag in, let's see, I haven't done this, so this might blow up on me, but we'll see what happens. You can use other outside or optional factors inside of your forecast to see what that does to it. So they've given you more control on how the forecast is going to be generated. And obviously, the more data you have, the better it's going to be.
Yeah.
So there's always that piece of it, right?
And guys, if you're not looking at chat right now, because I know some of you are kind of listening and multitasking, Ted's been putting some great links in the chat. So you might want to just flip over to chat and hit those links. So he just added one on understanding forecast and Cognos analytics. So you might want to check that out. But Ted, congratulations! You get the Quick on the Link award.
I'll take the gold star. And just to add to Brian and the accuracy, it is rather generic, right? It has to be somewhat generic. Every customer is different. I think with or without a crystal ball, it's difficult to forecast, right?
Absolutely.
It is, but the more data it is, the more detailed it is, the more you're able to like COVID hit, right? And we needed to really either adjust out or do something with 2020, basically, because those numbers, some businesses probably looked great, some other businesses not so good. And that obviously, because it's using it, right? But to be able to just, hey, let me filter at least 2020 out and see what that does, I think is helpful. All right, so I think I hit on everything I set out to hit on. We talked about the speed at which things render. We talked about the ease of use and the usability for even a new user. As I said, just you bring in a file or you say, hey, Tom says to Bob, hey, go out and grab this data module and start playing with it. It's pretty easy to do, right? You can even in the assistant, and you'll see once I pull the assistant back up, everything is still there. It hasn't gone anywhere. If I wanted to reset it, I can, but everything is still available to me. So I can refer back to while I'm building. But it's, even from the get-go, if somebody says, and I just hit the reset button, so you'll see I have no source selected. So I could go out and hit select and have to go find it. Or I can just type in, you would see the first thing it shows you is load data, right? So I'll hit load data. And now it's going to ask me, which ones do you want to load? Oh, I want to load the data module. And now it's going to load it, and now I can start working there. So even if you just know the name and you load movie data module, now you're going to start to have that information again. And then you start kind of at the beginning and you can jump right in, or you can start, hey, let me explore net profit. And again, start from the beginning, right? So that guided interface, the ease of use, the self-service, and the speed were really the three main goals for Cognos 12. And I frankly think IBM nailed it on that. I really do. I'm really excited to hopefully get some clients onto it. I'm not sure how many. In the beginning, Heather, was anybody on Cognos 12?
I do not believe so. We had a bunch of 11s.
No. Yeah, I don't think anybody except for us. So
Except for us, yep.
That's
and
why
we
they're
actually
here, Mike.
we have both. We have 11, 2, 4, and 12 on our server. So I've actually gone back and forth and tried to do the same things on 11, 2, 4 versus what I just did on 12, and I can do it, and because I know what I'm doing, but it took longer. I'll tell you that. It took probably double the time to get started and to load the data and to see the dashboard and all of that. So from a real life example of using both at the same time, it's Cognos 12 is certainly quicker and easier to use. So I'll stop there before I hit the next steps here. We got 8 minutes. Are there any more questions to cover? I want to make sure that everybody gets the chance to ask, any, and it doesn't have to be related to what you've seen. It can be really anything, and we'll do our best to answer it or come back to you with the answer.
So if you have a question, now's the time. It's like free consulting, guys. Go ahead and put it in chat. We'll give you a second here. I do not see any questions, Mike. So,
All right. So next steps. So a couple things. One is Lodestar has a great program to review your current licensing. Whether you're a client or not, if you're not, we'd love to talk to you. This is a no obligation. Let's sit and chat. But we've done a great job over the years of saving many clients lots of money on your IBM renewal, or maybe, as I said at the bottom, maybe you're new to Cognos, maybe you've never seen it before today, and you want to explore it more, and you want to talk about it, and you want to, maybe dive in a little deeper and just discuss your situation. Reach out to us. We will do. We can't promise it, but we will do our very best to save you money. But at a minimum, make sure that you have the right amount of licensing for what you're using. We certainly don't want to get the IBM love letter about audits. PVUs and authorized users can be confusing. So reach out to us and let's have a chat. And then the last thing is we offer these really great upgrade bundles. A couple years ago, we put together programs that really can save you time and money. It's kind of like an insurance policy. You come to us and you can buy an upgrade bundle, and what that does is gives you 2 or 4 upgrades in a year. It can be Cognos Analytics or even Planning Analytics. I think we're doing one for Controller and Infosphere now, whatever it might be. But really, Cognos and Planning Analytics, Dev, Prod, and in the end, we upgrade it. We provide the documentation. We do an hour-long walkthrough, and candidly, you save money. It's a great deal if you're looking to upgrade, whether you're on Cognos 8 or all the way up to needing to go to 12. Reach out to us. We'd love to talk to you, talk about your situation, and let you know what's the best way to do it for you.
And guys, Mike, I have one more request. I'm selfish.
Sure.
I'm hijacking Mike's meeting.
Please, well, you're the boss.
So we've been doing a ton of research, and some of you, we've come out, we've asked you, some of you have already filled out our quick question, but I put in chat, we're doing some research. It's a 1-question research question. If you can hit the link and answer it, and it's just basically, what's your biggest challenge in getting more end user adoption and analytic success? And what we're going to do with these results, and we're trying to get a really good mix of clients to answer this question, because we're going to create new webinars and content on how to solve your biggest challenges. And what we're hearing is a lot of people are struggling with, end user adoption and that change management and getting executives to really buy in, because sometimes the executives are the ones that are their biggest problem, right? They're like, just print my report. Just print my report. So we're creating workshops and webinars and events to help you guys solve those problems that are oftentimes software agnostic. So if you can, do me a favor, click the link. It'll take you less than 2 minutes. If you put your email at the end, which we do ask that you do, we will make sure we will share those results with you, and you'll get invited to our events that we have solving those problems. So
we're
if you guys
investing
can
a
help
lot
me
into
out,
that.
I appreciate it.
We're investing a lot into that area for sure. So if there are no other questions, I'd just love to hear if you are able, put in chat maybe something cool you saw, maybe something that you didn't see that you might want to see next time, whatever it might be. How you feeling about Cognos 12? And it could be, I'm a little nervous to I'm really excited about it, whatever it might be. I'd just love to hear some feedback. How you feel about 12 and what you might be excited to dig into in 12.
Yeah, guys, and if you could do one more thing after this webinar, what's your number? How you guys feeling? 0 to 10. I love what's my number. Mike always laughs at me, but it gives me a good kind of sense of how you guys are doing. So put what's your biggest takeaway and put your number in the chat. We got people typing, Mike. The little dots bouncing. Any improvements IBM has done for data models modules, as there were some gaps like parameter maps, etc.
I've not seen anything on parameters maps, but I haven't spent a ton of time on that in 12. Let me get who asked that, Heather?
That's Ram.
Ram, okay. Ram, I'll get back to you. Let me take a look at that one.
And we have some other comments. Great session. Thanks. Thank you. Got to go to another meeting, number 8 from William. Got a bunch of thank yous coming in. So we want to thank you guys for showing up and playing full out. We love it when chat starts blowing up. So thank you. Brian, by the way, you get the chat winner award. Ted's the link award. And great job, Mike. So thanks, everyone. Everyone have an amazing day.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, all.
Appreciate you. Bye-bye.
Cheers.